Hey everybody, this is Daryl at hudsonscustommachining.com, and we have here on the bench today a linkage arm from a 1915 General Electric 3-speed electric oscillating fan. And here's what the fan looks like. This is not the fan that the link is from, but I set this fan here just to show what the fan looks like that this link goes to. These are very common. These were made for a long period of time. They started in 1913 with this design, with this loop handle, this cast ring that the motor oscillates inside of this ring here. And they put a handle here on top for you to be able to pick up the fan and carry it and move it around from room to room. Now, in 1915, blades were still brass. Cages were still brass. This one just happens to be very, very tarnished and dirty. But this is a brass guard. And as you'll note, the S wires that radiate from the center medallion out to the front cage ring, when they get to the front cage ring, they had a wrap. This wire would wrap all the way around the front ring and go to the back ring, and it was wrapped around the back ring. You can see here that wraps around, and the wire is terminated right down here. And these were just crimped, and they can sometimes they'll be a little bit loose here. You can actually slide them over a little bit. But this is one way to somewhat date these loop handle fans of this period is by this wrap on the ring. Now, these cages were brass up until about 1916 or 17, probably about 17. They went away from brass and started using steel for cage wire. Maybe, possibly due to the war effort, because the United States was in the middle of World War I at the time. I think World War I was, what, 1914 to 1919, I think, the U.S. involvement. So, maybe due to that is why they went away from brass and started using steel. But the first couple of years that the cages were steel, they still had this wrap around this front ring and wrapped around the back ring. We'll say 17, may have started in 18, but 19, 17, 18, and 19 cages were steel and had this wrap. Well, beginning in about 1920, they quit wrapping the wire around the front cage ring and started spot welding them. And as you'll see here, this S wire comes across and it just makes a 90-degree bend across this front ring, and it goes to the back ring and stops. It doesn't wrap all the way around it. And it's spot welded here and spot welded here. And that's one little way that you can sort of date these loop handle oscillators when you see them, is if the cage is brass or if it's steel, and also whether it has a wrapped front ring or a spot welded front ring. This is one I got out of the pile out back. You can see it's got the cobwebs all over it, and it's kind of dirty and nasty, but I just wanted to use that as an example to show you how to date these. So getting back to this arm linkage here, the problem with this is that where this shoulder screw fits in this end of the link, you can see there's a lot of play in here, a lot of slop due to the worn parts. This hole has worn oblong. It's not round anymore. It's oblong due to the pushing and pulling of this linkage on that fan motor, pushing and pulling that fan motor. And as you'll see here, this shoulder on this screw is very worn. You'll see this edge right here, and see how that's worn down terribly bad. This is a brass screw, and the link is steel. And you wouldn't think that brass would wear out steel, but it does. See how badly worn it is down in there? That was worn, that whole egg-shaped. So what we're going to do to fix this is I'm going to set this link up in the milling machine and take a boring head, and I'm going to bore this out just a little bit oversized to make this hole round again. We don't want to thin this too much out here. And we're not going to get into that metal very much. We just want to round this hole enough that we're going to true that hole up again so that it's not egg-shaped. And then I'll make another screw, another shoulder screw here. And I'll do a part 2 video of after I've got this other screw made and have this hole re-rounded again. I'll do a part 2. So look for a part 2 to this video coming up very soon. Alright, so I'm going to get started on this. Appreciate you guys subscribing, and hope you enjoy these videos. And we'll catch you later. Watch out for part 2. Y'all take care.